Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosensia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosensia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosensia has garnered great reviews and even loved and enjoyed by Hollywood celebrities, including Jenna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today of Fergal's Missing by Mia Mosensia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, a lot more. Amazon.com at the Mike Wagner Show. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, and hoodies, and also phone cases and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosensia. Check it out today and support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM as well as PayPal and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you give generously today. He's back by popular demand. He began his label Kusha Deep back in 2003 from a tour in Australia through Europe to Thailand. And he also worked with EMI Records, BMG, Festival, and more. And he's also hosted the Kusha Deep International Radio Show, very popular worldwide. And he's also the voice and production of Taste of Paradise, Bliss, and Ultra Love Machine, Urban Harmonics, and Chillin' and more. And he also released his first release back a while back, Majestic Retrospectives Volume 1 and 2 in the 90s. And we last talked here and talked about Rise Like the Sun. And also, we also talked about Battle for the Downtrodden, New Kind of Normal, and more. And he's got a brand new release out. We'll talk about it in just a minute. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios, somewhere in the beautiful UK, the very multi-talented and very popular, backed by demand, Dara Bray. Dara, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us once again.
It's an absolute pleasure, Mike. It's always lovely to talk to you, my friend. I hope you're all right. You good?
Oh, we're doing really well too. It's been like maybe like last year since we talked and everything. And and of course we talked about how you started your record label. You also worked with a number of labels. You also worked with some groups, and you also have your own radio show. And you might want to just give us a quick update on what you're up to. And for those who don't know who you are, just quickly tell us how I got started.
Musician, producer, author, and been making records since the early 90s. I was signed to kind of EMI 92, 93, ages sort of 19, 20-ish. And I've been sort of touring and making records kind of ever since. I set up my own label when I got back from Australia's second sort of tour in 2003. Kusha Deep Records, and I've been sort of very consistently sort of building quite a good catalogue of material, building up kind of like, good relations with kind of radio and press, and wonderful people like yourself. Had a really good response across America with the last album, 2019, New Kind of Normal. I've released a couple of books as well, The Night That Jimmy Died, and also Road Tales, which was about meeting amazing people while I was touring. And then obviously we spoke last year, obviously in the height of the kind of pandemic. And I put out Rise Like the Sun, which was a kind of Latin rock kind of flavor. And I just felt when we spoke before, I just wanted to kind of like create something that had a bit of light to it and a bit of positivity, that there was a way out of this situation by just kind of rising, like seeing the sun as an inspiration. It rises every day and it's really super powerful. Do you know what I mean? And if we can emulate that consistency of power, then we can maybe kind of find our way through the headaches. Do you know what I mean? So, and I've been thinking of recently as well about, if you do not mind me kind of talking about this on a psychological level, about thought. You know, how thought can be our greatest friend, our greatest kind of like, you know, asset, or it can be our greatest enemy. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, the more we can actually start to sort of like control our thinking to where we want to go, then the better chance we've got of actually staying within that kind of realm of guiding ourselves to the places that we want to be, rather than getting shifted into areas that, because of where we've been programmed through environment and through what people have told us and what the media are telling us, you know, that we can actually start to realize what is our thinking, you know, so thoughts come into our mind all the time. And sometimes, you know, if you can practice observing those thoughts and sort of going, yeah, that feels good, or that's weird, where's that coming from? And start questioning and becoming more of an observer. Because, you know, I'd say sort of 80% of the world are reactionary. So a thought will come into their mind and they think that that's what they've got to act on. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you get into a fight, you get into an argument with someone, you're just going to be using that kind of that first port of call that comes into your mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's
right,
reactive.
like an instinct.
Yeah, it's reactive, primitive kind of thinking, and it's going. Whereas, like when we're more controlled over where we kind of project ourselves, just like, you know, if you're driving a car, you've got a better option. If you're in control of that car, you've got a better chance of getting from A to B than kind of ending up in, you know, somewhere else that you don't want to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
correct, yeah.
The more we can get into kind of going, oh, that's kind of like that thought. That works or that doesn't work. When the things that are not working and they're driving you into a wall, that's the time, and you can recognize that, and you don't become reactive to those thoughts. You just go, right. Like, that's why meditation is so key to us all, that we can meditate and watch those thoughts and become more of an observer of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rather than allowing that to control us. So coming back to Rise Like the Sun, you know, it's a kind of affirmation. You know, that's what I do. I kind of create things that I feel are going to be a positive resource for people. You know, it's either going to be sort of like something like Heavier Than Rock and Roll we talked about earlier, which is about sort of like waking up from the illusion that, you know, politicians are going to save us, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to save themselves before they save anyone else. You know what I mean? And the situation has become heavier than rock and roll. I use that as an aphorism, if you like. Do you know what I mean? Of the kind of the chaos that actually they've driven us into this chaos. We didn't choose to be in lockdown. We didn't choose to be in these situations. We've been led into these scenarios
or pretty much pigeonholed into it. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, and yet we kind of like, there's a lot of things we do on this planet that are kind of a bit, if you actually stand back and look at it, you kind of go, this is kind of crazy, you know, that we actually end up voting for these people every 4 years for chaos. We vote for chaos. And so, you know, if you look at all of my work, it's all basically either, you know, an affirmation for people to kind of like grasp onto, to utilize, to kind of like be able to transcend where they are at that moment in time. Or they are just they're a depiction of where we are in society in the 21st century. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I do. You know, it's not really about, you know, talking about a lot of well, I'd say sort of like majority of kind of music that you hear today is really kind of like, it's not really tackling too much intellectually or sort of socially or spiritually. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, there's no point in me banging out records that sort of like, you know, Drake could do. Do you know what I'm saying? I've got
or anybody uses auto-tune on 100% basis. I mean, that's what you're getting at.
Well, you know what, you know, horses for courses and all that malarkey. I kind of, as I say, you know, I just remember our generation sort of like grew up in the shadow of the kind of the 60s icons, if you like. Do you know what I mean? But you know, you looked at the Beatles, you looked at the Stones, you looked at the Kinks, you looked at kind of what was happening socially. You looked at, say, you know, Timothy Leary, you looked at Jack Kerouac, you looked at kind of like Ken Casey, all these people were like massive in my collective. Do you know what I mean? So we had those resources to kind of draw on creatively. I do not think that the next generation coming through have the same resources that they draw on. I don't think there's too many people that would be sort of like able to kind of quote, I don't know, Jacques Chirac, for instance, do you know what I mean? Or any of those Ginsberg, any of those kind of top cats that were really, they were sort of pushing for sort of more of an enlightened, whether you liked it or not, they were definitely sort of pushing creatively. So we had a sort of, a good smorgasbord, if you like, of kind of like inspiration that we could draw into. So I think that what came out of the 90s, for instance, was pretty much our generation kind of going, we'll draw on that and we'll create what we create. You know what I mean? So you had the whole Nirvana kind of revolution and the, Soundgardens and all those dudes that, we had obviously our kind of Britpop thing. And there was some good moments within that, in that framework as well. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's sort of like what's happened now, there's some great musicians out there, but I don't know if they're sort of like, if their resources, if they're kind of like their cultural kind of icons are kind of saying anything that really is kind of going beyond anything other than just kind of money, sex, and partying. Or
simply instant gratification, where it's like, I was talking to somebody about it earlier, that there's so much of this need for instant gratification. That's why Instagram and TikTok and Twitter have exploded through the roof. It seems like there's no building anymore these days. That's a whole thing too. Like, everybody's out for instant gratification. Maybe the 2020s will define it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, it's a strange one, because the internet sort of has changed, again, sort of if you think back to sort of like, see, our generation were the pioneers of the internet, if you like. We were the ones that kind of like we were the ones that experienced the internet, like, first. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, if you look back to even say sort of like 2000s, the 2000s, if you like, the internet was kind of wild, but it was like, there wasn't this kind of like, it wasn't used to gang up on people and bully people politically. Do you know what I mean? And go, right, oh, you said something, therefore. It's become very like a baton for people to kind of use to beat people over the head if they don't agree with their thought processes. Where the internet was about free, like sharing information. When we kind of came, when we were sort of introduced to it, not in a million years would you expect there to be sort of like people, doing this kind of cancel culture kind of thing, which is, it's just quite sad to sort of see the internet being used in such a strange way, because like, I think that there is this amazing resource there. And it's strange that human beings, instead of kind of using it for the highest ideals, they end up using it for the worst ideals. Do you understand? So TikTok, with all due respect to TikTok, if you want to see sort of like, people dancing to some track, and if that's what makes you tick and you get off on that, then fair play. You know what I'm saying?
TikTok.
I haven't seen. Again, this sound bite, so you can only really sort of like get something across in a minute, otherwise people switch off. I think that's pretty tricky if you're trying to get complexity across to people, then that soundbite kind of situation doesn't really work. But at the same time, the access to information is insane. I mean, like, YouTube, take YouTube for instance. I listen to lectures all the time, from virology to science to cosmology to whatever it is that's going on socially or politically. There's always someone there who's got really good at insights into kind of like, and I like to listen to both sides of arguments. This is another thing that I don't get it with Twitter, for instance, where it's either one, it's like echo chambers of where everyone's at. So someone says something silly and everybody's right on it going, yeah, rah, 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 he's a this, he's this, there.
Oh, yeah. And then you say the same thing like the next day, you're like, boo, hiss.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's sad to see that that's the way the internet has been sort of like taken up by not necessarily the next generation coming through, but it wasn't like that 20 years ago when we first had the internet. It was very much about, wow, you remember MySpace, for instance. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. Yeah,
You know what
beloved
I mean?
MySpace. That was the best thing on the planet. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and you could share, people were up for like sharing music. Like, I think it was the first time we were kind of exposed to kind of America, being able to talk to American people, for instance, or anyone around the world, so it was really, I mean, it's still inspiring, even speaking to you now via sort of, Zoom. It's still, of course, it's still inspiring, but I just remember sort of like, MySpace in 2004 or whatever it was. And, you could put music up and you could get people from all around the world, like feedbacking on stuff. And, it seemed really healthy. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone was
It was, yes.
it was like we'd almost come out of the 90s, which was just so loved up. Everyone was just all loved up. And then somewhere along, well, we've had a lot of political scenarios, which has kind of dampened things down. I think, with the whole economic meltdown in 2007, that's probably, you could go back to say 2001, really, with the Twin Towers situation, which started the downward spiral into where people are kind of emotionally. And I certainly think sort of like the meltdown in 2007 with Lehman's going down really started to kind of make people a lot more cautious and a lot, a lot more less kind of like England was a different country. It was a very England was always a very sing-along-y kind of, you could have a laugh, you could have a bit of banter with people, this, something. And now it's become a very kind of, I mean, look, there was always trickiness. Of course there was. If you went down the East End on a Saturday night, you might get into a bit of a fight, you know what I mean? But it just seems like the level of kind of violence now here is just gone through the roof. I mean, it is through the roof. There's no two ways about it. And that's not the England that I remember. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not the England I remember. I remember England being a very happy-go-lucky kind of place where there was the creativity was through the roof. I mean, it still is. Do you know what I mean? But fashion was through the roof. Magazines were through the roof. Music, of course, was always like, there was like, lots of scenes going on. We came out of the 80s, where we had like, the we'd come out of the sort of like the new wave kind of neuromantics, then kind of into the whole casual kind of thing, and then into sort of acid house, and then into Britpop, and then 2000 sort of kicks along, and we sort of that there's a kind of hangover from that. But then the 2000s, it just seems like everything kind of seized up, and the sort of the new rock and roll is about gang mentality. Now it's about
or it's like everything's just like neutral ground, moderate, and all that. And of course, I'm thinking about it as well too. You talk about England and what's been going on. Kings and Serfs, it just really came to mind as your single. And tell us more about that. So it's like, for some reason, Kings and Serfs by you, Dara, just struck and came to mind.
Right. See, Kings and Serfs actually I was doing a radio show initially for Vintage FM in Liverpool. And I was doing it for a lovely lady called Leslie John Ben, she's like Cilla Black. She's like Cilla Black to me. She's just like an incredible woman. So supportive. One of the most amazing people I've ever met. And she asked me to do a sort of a half an hour stint on her show on a Saturday afternoon. So of course, I thought, I've done a lot of radio in the past. So I did this show. And I was doing this Christmas show, and I was going through all the vaults because it was mainly just stuff that I'd produced. And I realized just how much material I had, like literally from say 1992 to say, yes, nearly 30 odd years of material, man. You know what I mean? From like 18 years old to sort of, where I sit now. And so I had all this stuff that, some of it had been released, some of it hadn't. And I just started doing these radio shows. It started off at like 30 minutes, then went into an hour. And then I luckily got asked by BBS Radio in Los Angeles to do a show for them as well. And It got to Christmas, and I started doing these shows, and I thought, you know what, we really just need to, I need to put these out as kind of like compilation albums. So I ended up literally at the beginning of this year putting out, there was 50 songs. There was 2 albums literally by this time May. I put out Majestic Retrospectives 1 and 2, which was all my dance stuff from 95 to 2019, 2020. And that was literally 35 songs that were remastered. Then I found these tracks that made up Kings and Serfs, which came from a film that I was asked to do, which was basically about the pearly kings and queens of London, particularly in King's Cross and the tradition. And I was asked to write these tracks, and I had this idea of, which became Londinium, which was about a family that could trace their lineage all the way back to the Roman era, right? So they were there when the city was born. So I brought this story kind of like, it's a 6-minute piece. And unfortunately, and I did the second song I did for that was a track called Sweet As, which was about the main character in this film had basically found a piece of gold in the River Thames, and he makes a suit. He made a suit out of this, which was the initial idea for the pearly kings and queens. If you don't know what a pearly king and queen is, they used to dress up and they used to put all really like buttons, really like silver buttons all over their clothes,
right?
And it would be like their expression of kind of wealth, if you like. So they were the pearly kings and queens because it was all pearly, shiny suits. And they would go out on a Sunday and they'd be dressed up and they'd go out and do whatever they did, you know what I mean? And it was always a tradition, probably from the sort of 1800s to sort of now, do you know what I mean? So anyway, the second song, Sweet As, was about this character who finds this gold, makes this suit, and makes the first one of these pearly sort of outfits. Do you know what I mean? And but the film didn't get released in the end. So I had these tracks sitting alongside with another track that I did with a band called Fake It Till You Make It. So there was those 3 tracks just sitting around doing kind of very little. So I had those remastered, and I thought, I'll put those out just because I thought they were good tracks. You know, I thought it was a sad thing to see these things just sitting on a drive, not getting the kind of the vibe that they should get. So I ended up making a film for Londinium, which is, I think, a beautiful piece. Again, coming from sort of like all the way. It starts off at in Rorke's Drift, which was like one of the first. It was a campaign, sort of like where the English were basically getting nailed by the Zulus down in like South Africa. Do you know what I mean? And it starts off there and goes all the way to the sort of present. But you know, it's very much about where we are now. As a diversity is our strength, right? It is our strength, but we've got to be respectful of each other's cultures. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We have to allow the indigenous people to keep their cultures, but also be allowed for other cultures to come in and enrich that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
yes,
and
correct.
So that's where sort of like Londinium kind of like leaves, is to say, yeah, we are diverse, we are strong as a whole, but we shouldn't be basically dictating to indigenous people to change to kind of, you know, to change their cultures completely so they become totally unrecognizable of where they were before. Because there's a lot of beauty in sort of English British culture that I love, man. I'm an Irishman. I was brought over here. I was given safe passage during the Troubles when the IRA were causing a lot of mayhem. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
We were very lucky to come to England and be given safety and be able to express ourselves. So I'm forever grateful to this country and to the English people for allowing me to be here. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not about changing. I don't want England to change in that way, because there's things about this country that I really love. And I love English culture. I love the banter. I love the kind of you know, the way sort of English people think. You know, they're quite amazing people, the English people. They really are. Like, they really are. They, you know, you get a true English person, and if they've got your back, you have got one of the best friends in the world. I swear to God, because a true Englishman, and I truly believe this, will never, if they're true to you, they'll never stab you in the back.
That's very true as well, too. And of course, you got some great work as well, too. We hold true to that. We'll talk about Blood and Treasure along with your song No Time for Tears in just 1 minute. But first, listen to the Mike Widener Show at the MikeWidenerShow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Widener Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon, paperback, and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and enjoyed by Hollywood celebrities, including Dwayne Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today before it goes missing by Mia Molson-Zia. Available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com or 30 podcast platforms. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books and merchandise. And also, don't forget to support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, as well as PayPal and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Make sure you do so today. We're here with the terrific gentleman who began Kusha Deep in 2003, touring Australia, Europe, and Thailand. And he's also got a brand new album called Blood and Treasure, featuring No Time for Tears. Darragh Brady here on the Mike Wagner Show. Darragh, tell us more about Blood and Treasure, along with your upcoming song, No Time for Tears.
Cool. No Time for Tears is a song I kind of was inspired by. It's really about love over kind of the challenges that we are presented. It was inspired by the Romanov family, the last Tsar of Russia. It was quite, I saw this documentary about the Romanovs and how right at the last moment, as they were being executed by the communists, they still maintained this really strength, this love for each other. And it would have been very easy for Alexandra to have left him and walked away, but she chose to stay with him. And you know what I mean? So for me, I just thought that love transcended the bullets. Do you know what I mean? And so No Time for Tears really is about that. It's about, the love will basically see you through, because it when it's strong, it will go through everything and anything and still be there at the end of it when you breathe your last breath. Do you know what I mean? So No Time for Tears really is just to say, have faith in the ones that love you, and pray, you know what I mean? Have that belief in the higher realm, that the higher self, that whatever you want to call it, Jesus, have faith in that vibration, because that's always going to see you through, man. Do you know what I mean? So, that's really what it's about. It's about kind of, just being there for each other and realizing that there is something greater than what sits in front of you. There's something greater going on. And I think, we come back to when I talked about being in control of your thoughts. It's like kind of sometimes asking for that divine inspiration to sort of like say, look, I really need help here, and not being afraid to go, whatever you want to call it, universe, God, Jesus, whatever. Do you know what I mean? There is something there that will bring, when you channel it, it's there. And I can't explain it, but I know there's something there, you know what I mean? And it's powerful. And when we use it right, and we use it with divine love, great things can happen. We can heal, we can move mountains, you know what I mean? So that's what love, No Time for Tears. Blood and Treasure is actually an EP, and it will feature a lovely remix of No Time for Tears, which is coming from a guy called Vidula from Sri Lanka. Amazing remix, real Game of Thrones kind of film-esque kind of vibe. There's going to be a couple of extra songs on there as well. And Blood and Treasure really is about man's and possibly women.
Hey, give me both. Come on, pets, whatever, cats.
No, but I don't. Look, the reason I'm saying it like that is I don't know if women are driven in the same way, kind of like that. Men are driven sort of like by a lust for power. Do you know what I'm saying? There is a real lust. I'm not saying women aren't driven by that lust, but it's not, men will go, like, if you look at the cover of Blood and Treasure, it was actually based on the last soldier out of kind of Afghanistan in the 1800s. And if you look at that, you see that basically Afghanistan was kind of like, again, a British kind of contingent going into a situation for in terms of actual control of resources. So and being willing to lose blood over it in order for gain. And that's what I'm talking about. I don't know too many women have defended, but I don't think women have sent kind of like, who have gone, you name me any women's army that's gone into another kind of country and nailed their resources.
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Yeah.
if you look at women in sort of like the whole kind of perspective, they've definitely you look at the Russian women during the Second World War were phenomenal. They, if it hadn't have been for the Russian women, the AK guns, which were basically, they were, what's the right word? Because I can't say manned. They were manned by this female brigade that held the German Eighth Army back in Stalingrad. They held the Eighth Army back with AK guns. Do you know what I mean? We're talking like Panzer tanks. Do you know what I mean? So women have defended, but I don't think women have the same lust for power that men have had throughout the centuries. That might change. Who knows? I don't know. But
I think we're seeing this change, to be honest with you, in most countries as well too. Possibly America, and of course, Germany had their change, and possibly England, whatever it is. Like, it seems like the balance of power is shifting already.
Yeah. I mean, I think that women sort of women need to, they it's their time, really, to be fair, to be able to get to have a go at sort of running things and see how they get on, because let's face it, we've not done a great job. Do you know what I mean? Men have really cocked things up big time, and all the problems in the world have been caused by men. Sorry, but that's the truth of it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that sort of like, I think it needs to be a balance between the two kind of forces. If we can get a balance between male and female kind of working together, like I say, when you look, I'm not, if you look at the Russians, for instance, like fighting when they were pushing against the Germans during sort of like that big sort of push from 42 to 45, men and women really were fighting neck and neck alongside. In fact, the Germans couldn't bear coming up against female forces. They really couldn't bear it, because they were phenomenal. You look at the Kurdish female fighters fighting against ISIS, man. So brave. I mean, when ISIS were full ball in 2014, most of us, in fact, a lot of me, all right, let me just say me, I would have been wary against coming up against ISIS for sure.
Right.
Big time. You know what I'm saying? Big time. Even if you were in a crack set up, to get caught by ISIS, wouldn't have been a nice kind of option. Whereas a lot of these Kurdish women fighters, man, they should have been getting heralded as like absolute superhuman heroes, because they were coming up against that force and not batting an eyelid. And it's the West hasn't really kind of recognized what the Kurds did against ISIS. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think, women in general, it is a different age. I think we're witnessing them come into the fore, and it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing to see the unity happening there, and women basically coming through and starting to kind of make their way, and hopefully, things will balance out with a bit more kind of, feminine wisdom.
Right. We'll see what happens too. And of course, that's also explaining your upcoming EP. And where can we find Blood and Treasure, No Time for Tears, and all your works at?
So actually, I've just done I've just done a licensing deal with Hangover Records. I think it's Hangover Records, and it's basically they're raising money for returned veterans from all theatres that have come back with post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's an array of artists on this album called We Salute You. It got released on the 11th of November. No Time for Tears is on there with a host of other amazing artists from the UK and America. There's an amazing singer that I'm talking to from New York, Jacqueline Cohen Bailey, I think her name is. She's really cool. What amazing vocalist. She's on there. So we've got American artists on there, British artists raising money for returned soldiers, male and female service people who have kind of gone out and support, done great things in terms of sort of, they've done some incredible things. I'm not saying the politics behind it was great, but what they've done, they've stepped up to the job, and they're there, they're there. And so we just wanted to sort of, I think it's important that artists actually stand there and say, you know, we support you, you know, we support you because you do defend the realm, you know what I mean? And God bless you for that. So that's out kind of you know, hopefully going to raise a lot of money for those guys. And then No Time for Tears will probably be out sort of like mid-December. I've just got to finish off a couple of bits and pieces on that, and that'll be out mid-December. And then obviously early next year, be really sort of pushing it hard. I've got a Christmas kind of thing happening as well, which hopefully be able to get out as well.
Okay.
And then there will be an album sort of like that I get down to getting. I've got all the songs are kind of there, loads of cool new songs, but I've just had so much.
You got so much going on. Wow.
You know what I mean? I just haven't got down to recording. Do you know what I mean? I've not even been in the studio. Sort of, you know, I'm stealing time at the moment just to write, to finish. I've got loads of ideas, and I'm just stealing time to write at the moment. So yeah, that's the vibe, man. There's lots of cool things happening, and just, you know, my whole game plan is really about bringing people together from all walks of life, from all countries. Do you know what I mean? And showing people that we are stronger together as a whole. You know, when we share ideas, we are strong. When we kind of, you know, respect each other culturally, we're strong. When we bring each other's, we strengthen each other's strengths and support each other's weaknesses, we're strong. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's really what I'm about. That's what, it's not just about music for me. It's about bringing people together and also being able to talk, you know, debate. Let's have some debates. Let's not shut them down because they've said something that they don't agree with. Let's have some open debates. Let's keep dialogue open, because safe spaces and all that is all very well, but you can't protect, you know, you to protect yourself and go, well, I don't want to hear that, is really, it's not allowing. When you do not allow debate, you're driving through just one sort of like angle. It's like, for instance, if we were working together and I was just going, no, it's got to be my way, I'm not allowing you to breathe in that project. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not, and so that's, if I allow you to breathe within that project, we're going to come up with something really amazing. Do you get me?
It does, yes.
You know, and that's the mark of a good producer, is somebody that lets people breathe in the studio and go, what have you got, man? That's a great idea. I really like that. Hold that idea. Let's get that one over. Do you know what I mean? And that's how everyone gets respected within the framework. And when everyone's respected and everyone gets to say so, even if you disagree with it, but there's always going to be something in there that you go, you know, that you go, actually, yeah, that's a good point, man. And that's when we're strong. We go, that's a good point. I like that. Let's take that, rather than go, kill them. They're saying the wrong thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know, and that's where we're strong if we stay open.
Yes, that's right too. And once again, what's your website? Where can we find all your music at, and how can people reach you?
So if you just go to, if you want to find me, Kusha Deep is kind of my label. You can sort of find me, just Google KUSHA DEEP or Dara DAR.RA. And, you know, you can find me on all the usual kind of places like Facebook and, you know, YouTube Kusha Deep 7. You'll find all the videos. Or I do a lot of live sort of, like, I've got this little kind of space I've set up called the Healing Room, which is not here. This is my little studio, but so I'm doing like acoustic sessions next door as well, just off the cuff kind of like cover versions, which I try and do in a different way. So I'm doing those. So they go on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I did Everly Brothers the other day, Crying in the Rain. But it's my take on those sort of old songs, because I think that those songs are really amazing and they don't get heard that much anymore. So just bringing that stuff, a bit of Dylan. I did some Dylan, Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, you know, those sort of tracks.
Well, that's a good one, yes.
You know what I mean? And, you know, so I have a bit of fun with that, man. Do you know what I mean? So, and then obviously just, you know, writing. I know, right? Here's the deal, Mike. I'm going to have some time soon to finish off some stuff, and I'm really excited about it. It's
my gosh, yes.
I'm going to be able to wake up in the morning, man, and go, I can get in the studio because I've just got some time coming to me. And I'm so happy. I'm like, thank you, Lord.
Yes.
I've got time to just finish stuff off.
Yeah, amen to that. We're looking forward to having you in 2022 as well, too. Make sure you keep us up to date. Once again, to Rob Brady here on the Mike Wagner Show. Always a pleasure to have you on. We wish you all the best, and don't forget to keep us updated, and you're always terrific.
Listen, let me tell you, Mike, I love you. You know, you're amazing, great broadcaster. I'm always listening to your stuff. I love what you put out on Facebook. I love the fact you're a spiritual man, and you put out some really beautiful things. You know what I mean? Some really lovely stuff, Bible quotes, that whole thing. Really inspire that. I really love that, man. And I just want to say to all your listeners, thank you. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay open, and stay together, yeah?